the best game of week 1 by far, I think, is Ohio State versus Texas. For one, it's a rematch of the Cotton Bowl game from a couple of months ago. Ohio State won that to go to the national championship. Welcome back, everyone. Episode 47 of Bando's Breakdowns, coming to you guys from a special day, the usual time, but a special day, Saturday afternoon. That's May 31st. We end the month with a bang instead of starting the month with a bang. So thank you again for being extremely patient and I guess diligent in following along here with the ever so nutty content schedule, which will be back into a regular flow of things starting next month, with things getting lighter and lighter as the summer officially gets underway here in a couple of weeks. But again, thank you so much for tuning in again, episode 47. My name is Zain Bando. Thanks again for coming back. If you're new here and you don't know how the show works, it's pretty simple. We discuss Chicago sports on here. We talk about national sports. We talk about anything that I deem important, whether it's college football, the NFL, combat sports, and so much more. You guys know the drill on this. A couple of things that we obviously won't be discussing today because they're in the respective off seasons, but a few important news items as such, as we like to usually do here on this program. But before we get to it, though, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to the ETB Network. Very, very important you do that. To do that, youtube.com/ETB Network is where you'll want to go. Be sure to subscribe, hit like on this video if you're on the video side of this. And of course, you can also listen to this show wherever you get your podcasts and so much more. And you can check out some extra bonus content over at the ETB Substack, which is going to be merging into becoming a live platform, the content over there, meaning over on Playback. So the Substack archive will still be there. The RSS feeds will still be there. But in terms of new content, beginning, I believe it's June 1st, you won't be seeing really any new stuff minus the rare off chance. So be sure to check all that out as well and so much more. I believe that's everything, though. So let's get into the show itself, as we want to keep this moving and we want to make this as quick and as seamless as possible. So Zan's overview. We're going to go back through some college football offseason outlook stuff. There's been some new developments. The new video game reveal has come out. The Big Ten announced some of their kickoff times for the first few weeks of the season. Not all of them. I just, for those of you who are watching or listening, I just penned a piece the other day in regards to this schedule. So go over to the Sporting News to check that one out. It gives you weeks 1 through 3 because there's no point in giving you every week when not all the times have been announced yet. So just wanted to be transparent about that off the top for those of you who have not read the piece yet. So go over there and check that out. Very importantly that you do that. It would mean a lot as we're trying to beef up and continue to beef up the Big Ten coverage over there. But outside of that, we're also going to be going over the video game review, the Big Ten games, and then of course my pick for week 1, as far as what the best game is and why I think everybody should be excited for it. So let's get into it. The college football offseason outlook, we kind of already went over what we're going to be discussing. The Big Ten games that were announced, and of course, the first 3 big noon kickoff sites. So in week 1, it's going to be Columbus, Ohio State versus Texas. You know the drill. Ohio State attempted to make this a night kickoff. Texas rejected that. Fox was even willing to brand Big Noon Kickoff for that week only as a night game. Kind of like what I was hinting at last week that they probably were thinking about doing. So that's interesting. That kickoff time has been announced. Some other Big Noon kickoffs that have been revealed. Ames, Iowa for Iowa versus Iowa State. That should be a good one. And then I believe for the first time ever, it's Evanston, Illinois as the backdrop for week 3 for Fox Big Noon Kickoff. That's going to be Oregon and Dante Moore coming to Evanston to take on a new look Wildcats team led by Preston Stone. That'll be interesting as well. Some other kickoff times to note as well as we get further and further along into this. Again, some of these have not been fully revealed yet, but I wanted to be transparent on that front. Some of these, again, have not been fully revealed, but let me give you a few that have been over the course of the first few weeks. For those of you who know, I follow Illinois, so that's where my eyes went first. Peacock is going to air that game. That's the home opener and season opener. I should be at that one. That's a 7:30 Eastern kickoff on August 29th from Memorial Stadium. Season tickets are sold out there. So congratulations if you were one of the lucky ones to have season tickets to arguably the most anticipated Illinois football season in quite some time. Some other notable kickoff times as we move down the list in week 2. More specifically, we have a few. Illinois versus Duke. That's at Duke. That'll be interesting. Oklahoma State versus Oregon. That'll be a good one. That's Mike Gundy going to Eugene. That'll be interesting. Boston College at Michigan State. That's another one that's interesting. Michigan, Oklahoma, John Mateer versus Bryce Underwood. That'll be a good one too. That's the main ABC nightcap game for week 2 on Saturday, September 6th. So that'll be a good one as well. Moving over down the list, we went over Oregon, Northwestern, Wisconsin at Alabama. That is the second year of a home and home series between the two. Last year's matchup was in Madison. Alabama won that. So Wisconsin is looking for revenge down in Tuscaloosa, but that'll be easier said than done. Speaking of Illinois, Illinois hosts Western Michigan. Another night game that's, let's see, that would be 2 night games in the first 3 weeks of the year, which, of course, sandwiched in there would be the Duke one, as I alluded to just a second ago. Moving down the list, some of these this is where, for those of you who read the article and you're confused, you're like, Zan, where's the rest of the weeks? This is why, because after week 4, after, after week 3, you don't quite know some of these times. So, for example, Saturday, September 20th, this isn't every game, but Michigan plays Nebraska on CBS. That's a 3:30 Eastern kickoff. What else is there? Let's see, Oregon and Penn State. That gets the NBC Saturday night treatment. USC Illinois, that would be homecoming. Don't know the time for that yet. Then there's a bunch of other ones you get deeper into the year, like looking more specifically a good week to kind of earmark here some key games. Saturday, October 18th, Oregon at Rutgers. That could be a big game for Rutgers' bowl hopes there. Let's see, USC at Notre Dame could be the last time ever that those two teams play in a series format. Looking over to the next week, Wisconsin versus Oregon. We don't know what time or network that would be. If you remember last year, that was a Saturday night game in Madison. Could it be a Saturday night game again? It depends on how good Wisconsin is by that point in the year. Northwestern at USC, that's a Friday night kickoff on Fox on November 7th. And then, of course, as we get deeper and deeper into it, Iowa and Nebraska gets the CBS slot again. Indiana and Purdue moves from, I believe it was the Big Ten Network to NBC. It was the Big Ten Network a year ago, or FS1. I know it was at least one of those two. Then, of course, the final the final week of the regular season, we know this because it's always handpicked before anything else is decided because they own the rights to it. Fox gets the game, Ohio State at Michigan in Ann Arbor. And, of course, it all leads to the Big Ten Championship game December 6th at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, Indiana, which I think could go a lot of different ways. So those are some of the Big Ten matchups. And again, I have the first few weeks posted over to TSN. So if you want all that, go check that out. And just kind of slightly going off course, but it makes sense to kind of talk about this. The best game of week 1 by far, I think, is Ohio State versus Texas. For one, it's a rematch of the Cotton Bowl game from a couple of months ago. Ohio State won that to go to the national championship. It's going to be whoever Ohio State's quarterback is versus Arch Manning. The game is in Columbus. Huge game for Sark and company. If they can steal this one on the road, it's a huge resume booster. If Ohio State wins this one, they couldn't be off to a better start in an ultra-competitive Big Ten that will have multiple teams vying for them. More specifically, you got Oregon, in the mix there. Penn State, Michigan, Illinois. There's a couple others in there. USC, if they could get their stuff together, they might be good. UCLA could be a dark horse with Nico if they can figure out whether or not Nico really is the guy that they wanted to begin with. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, week one for sure. Ohio State, Texas, big noon kickoff, Saturday, August 30th. Don't miss it. That'll be a good one. And even though it isn't noon, it is getting a pretty darn good treatment, if you will, being the marquee college football game of the first week of the season. So just something to keep in mind there. And of course, I would be remiss if I did not discuss this. We are under 10 days away from the Indiana Fever coming to Chicago to take on the Sky. And there's a huge missing piece in this one. Caitlin Clark is not going to play. She's injured. She's out, for a little bit. Huge loss for this one. All the star power, all the momentum is kind of cursed. All the star power, all the momentum in that one is kind of cursed now. Because of that, the ticket prices have plummeted. They're now super affordable. So if you want to go catch a marquee WNBA game, even though Caitlin Clark is going to be playing in it, pretty sure that would be next weekend from Wintrust Arena, Chicago Sky, from the United Center. The Wintrust Arena, just for you guys who don't really follow the WNBA, that's the main home of the Chicago Sky and the DePaul Blue Demons. The United Center is the host of this one. Still very affordable because of Angel Reese's injury. So if you want to watch the W for an affordable price in about a little over a week, you certainly can. So just something to bear in mind. By the time this airs, though, it'll be, I'm pretty sure, exactly a week until the game itself. So something to bear in mind there. Sky Fever, United Center, no Caitlin Clark, still very interesting. All right, let's move on here as we keep it rolling. Jon Jones-Tom Aspinall, what do we have on this fight? The answer is we have nothing on this fight. We have no idea what's going on with it. We don't know when it's happening. We don't know if it's happening. Tom Aspinall revealed a clothing Instagram post. I had to remind people tons of times that wasn't a fight announcement. He jokingly posted that he would be fighting for the interim BMF heavyweight title or something goofy like that. So it's clear he's getting frustrated. He's trying to keep the fans and I guess pundits who cover the sport, myself included, on edge as to what is really going on with the whole ordeal. It'll probably drag out all summer long, so I'm sure there's going to be more updates to come following this entire mess. But overall, though, this fight, we have no idea what's going on with it. Who knows? By the time this drops, hopefully we get an announcement of some kind. I don't know that for sure. It would definitely help with me for something to lead with next week if the fight's done. But I hope it happens. I think it will happen. I think the UFC can't let this one slip through their fingers. They did with the Francis Ngannou fight. Khabib and Tony Ferguson never happened for reasons that were beyond the UFC's control, but it still didn't happen. I actually think they get this one done. So call me hopeful, but I think Jones Aspinall gets done. All right, we're back on a regular schedule with UFC events as well. UFC Vegas 107 from the Apex in Las Vegas. This is not the greatest card in the world. Let's take a look at this here. It's kind of a bad one, unfortunately. The headliner is Macy Barber versus Erin Blanchfield in a very critical fight in a division where not really a whole lot of people know what's going on with the division in terms of its limbo and when the title is going to be defended. I don't have official picks for this in Tapology just yet, but I can give you a brief breakdown of the main event. We had some changes to this card in terms of the start time and whatnot. It's a 6:30 p.m. Eastern start, 11 fights on this card. I come into this weekend with 118 wins. I had to look for myself because we had last week off. It makes it a little bit confusing when you don't have a card every week to consistently always look at your record all the time, but I did. Let's take a look at this. Erin Blanchfield, fighting out of New York, 13-2 overall, has won 4 out of her last 5. Macy Barber has won 5 in a row, but has been out for a considerable amount of time. Blanchfield is a slight favorite, minus 175. Macy Barber, the comeback there at plus 146, fighting on Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Let's see, Barber 27, Blanchfield 26. So important fight at flyweight. The Tapology consensus community loves Blanchfield to win the main event, probably by decision, I would think. I like Macy Barber. I think she has a comeback of a vengeance, and I think she puts on a really good performance because she knows this may be her only chance to gun for a title unless she works her way back up over the next several years. She has time to do so. She hasn't hit 30 years old yet, but in this sport, you have this window of opportunity, as they say, and it's 25 to 30. And if you can't get it done within those 5 years, there's a good chance you may never get it done. So, very short shelf life for these athletes, but it should be a good main event overall. But the card itself is just not great. This is your quintessential Apex card. I've seen some people call this the end of the Great Depression in MMA. It's been a really bad stretch of fights lately. I mean, I can't believe the co-main event is Mateus Gamrot versus Ludovit Klein. That's not a good fight. I don't know. Just some of these fights. I would argue Dustin Jacoby should be the co-main event, but that's just my opinion. There, you got some contender series guys on here as well. Some veterans too. Trevin Giles is on this card. Kurt Hollabaugh, who's been around for a while, is on this card. This is not a good Apex card though by any means. This just it isn't. If you're a casual fan, I recommend skipping this one. You have better things to do tonight, I guess, when this comes out. So it's an unfortunate one, but I like Barber to get it done in the main event. I've sucked on main event prediction, so if I lose this one, don't blame me, just blame luck, I guess. I mean, there's been some ones that just haven't gone my way. The Michael Morales one, the Bilal Muhammad one. I haven't won a main event since I haven't gotten a main event pick right. Now that I'm thinking about it, since UFC Kansas City when Ian Gary beat Carlos Pradas. So hopefully I can get one of these right at some point. My record is still respectable, but my main event record isn't very good either. So that'll be interesting. I'll give you the full pick lineup this Saturday as I usually do, and hopefully you guys can do decent. We did well on the last card, or decent enough. 6-5 was the clip there on Vegas 106 with Burns and Morales as the headliner. So enough of that. We're kind of done there. But before we continue with the show, let's shoot it over to a message from our friends over at Playback, and then once that's done, we can get back to the show. Just wanted to give a quick timeout in the middle of the show to remind you guys that Bando's Breakdowns is presented by Playback. I teased it a little bit earlier that there was an announcement coming, and sure enough, without further ado, here we go. Presented by Playback, watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much of our time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together with everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience. From playing fantasy sports, rubbing your favorite players and teams, and watching with the commentators and communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. Join our community by going to playback.tv/ETV Network to find out more, including our live stream schedule. And with that, we can get back to the show. Thanks again for listening to that message from our friends over at Playback. I really, really appreciate all you guys and your support of that platform. It's been a good platform overall for about the last year or so. I've done some good stuff there. But let's move on here to the end of the show as we know it here. So the NBA and NHL postseason. The Oklahoma City Thunder are in the NBA Finals. By the time this airs, the Indiana Pacers could have wrapped up its series, or their series rather, against the Knicks. So in all likelihood, it'll be Pacers Thunder in the NBA Finals. But again, that remains to be seen as well. That looks like the worthy matchup. They're an exciting matchup. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander versus Tyrese Halliburton. That could go deep, either 6 or 7 games. Indiana's going to be rocking if they can get to the finals. That'll be really cool, and that'll be a tough ticket to get as well. But overall, though, I think it'll be interesting. And let's take a look at over at the NHL postseason now. We're almost done with that. The Florida Panthers are in the Stanley Cup final. They won their series against Carolina 4-1. By the time this airs, the Western Conference final could be over. Edmonton leads that one 3-1. So in all likelihood, you're going to get Oilers Panthers in the Stanley Cup final. A very, very highly touted matchup there. Can Connor McDavid finally break through and win a ring? That'll be interesting. We'll talk more about that as the finals get closer or in the midst of everything. Is by the time we drop next week, both of those will more than likely already started. All right. Zain Zinger finally, just really briefly, Caleb Williams has every right to defend himself. He gave a 4-minute spiel about the Seth Wickersham ESPN article, and I think it was very humble of Williams to do this. It shows his character, it shows his commitment to the Bears, and it shows how much he cares about being the best quarterback he can and not about stuff that doesn't pertain to him anymore. Did the Vikings seem like a dream? Yeah, it did for a little bit, but I'm sure now that with Ben Johnson at the helm, the Bears are trying to clean things up. It should be interesting to see where he goes from here entering his sophomore NFL season, and will be a very highly anticipated season for the Bears. Whether or not they can make the playoffs still remains to be seen as well. But overall, though, I'm happy that he was able to do this, defend himself, back his teammates, and move on from there. So that's going to do it for Bando's breakdown. Zan's errors, I already corrected myself earlier in the show about the venue for the Sky and the Fever. So outside of that, that was it, and it was a very, very fun and memorable episode. But before we go, I just realized something now that I guess we can go in reverse, if you will. One thing that I saw was that Tyreek Hill video. Very, very interesting. Very, very viral esque, if you will. I don't know what to say about it. I mean, I hope part of it isn't true. I mean, I guess internally it's being looked at. Is it going to ruin his reputation? I don't know. But it seems that Tyreek Hill doesn't have a care in the world right now as to what people think of him. It is what it is. I mean, I don't think you can really say much more until more comes out. That's how I'm going to leave that. So thanks again for tuning in. That's episode 47. My name is Zain Bando, and again, thank you so much for bearing with the change. We'll be back on a regular schedule starting next month. But until then, have a great weekend. Enjoy the fights tonight if you care about that. Enjoy all the NBA and NHL over the next week or so, and I'll catch you guys soon. Have a good one.